This video is an art-along where I am making artist trading cards known as ATCs. The theme will be faces in a crowd. In the first 3 minutes, I will show you the finished ATCs. If you are only interested in seeing the finished ATCs, you can end the video at that point. Thank you.
So I'm just going to describe to you how I finished them up. I collaged the photos down onto the ATCs, my vintage photos, and then I outlined them with a Faber-Castell Biggie black, so I get the black line all around the vintage photo, and then I outlined the ATC in vintage black on both sides. And I also finished up the detail information about the swap. You can see it here. So, and I added a little red button and some eyelash. It just needed something to give it a little cutesy to it, or a little decoration, a little color. So I have 7 of them. If I turn them upside down here, so you can see the backs. I think the back are just about as pretty as the front. The theme of the swap was faces in a crowd, and I chose children. And then I collaged magazine photos of children, and that kind of gives me a reddish, brownish tone in the background, and then I collaged vintage photo over that. On each one of these, on the front, I wrote cute baby face. So, and you can see the vintage photo with all the faces in the crowd back below. So I have 7 of them. I have to choose 2 for swap. I'm not sure exactly which 2 I'm going to choose. I think some are better to send out than others. So I'll make that decision. So later, here they are. If you can show them to you without them sliding off of the... I got them sitting on a art journal here. So they are finished.
If you just wanted to see the ATCs, the video can be stopped at this point. The rest of the video is a process video showing how I made the ATCs and discussing them in detail. Thank you.
Hi. Today I'm going to make some ATCs, and I'm going to be using collage as my main technique on this. The theme of the ATC is faces in a crowd, and I'm doing this for an art group, a swap in an art group that I'm in. So the thing that I chose for my faces were children, babies and young children. And what I did, because I have so many of these type of magazines around, I mean, they really pile up. Sometimes I would take them to work and just leave them in the break room, and other people would read them. But I've been keeping them because I find that they're great for recipes and images and puzzles and all sorts of things. Well, this morning I went through and did a search for children's faces. Now what I'm thinking about doing is collaging down all the faces that I've already cut out, and I'm going to cover this entire page is 12 by 9. So, and an ATC is 2.5 by 3.5. So we have to swap 2 of them, and I hope to have 1 or 2 for my own self. So I should have plenty of room on here to get ATCs out of here. So I'm not going to bore you with how I collage down. I'm going to turn off my video and do the collage. I want to kind of explain where I'm going with this. This whole page will be filled with faces. Then after I get everything collaged down, what I am thinking of doing is cutting the ATCs 2.5 by 3.5, and from that point I'm either going to emphasize some faces, or I'm thinking that I'm going to pull off of the song Baby Face. You've got the cutest little baby face. And I'm thinking that maybe I'll do an image of a baby in a silhouette and emphasize that on each ATC. I've got it in my brain. I don't quite have it on paper yet, but I'll have it on paper by the time I get there. So I'm going to turn off the video and go ahead and do my collage work, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. And what I wanted to show you was I started marking out the layout where I want my ATCs. The paper is 12 inches wide and 9 inches tall as a landscape. So I'm going to be able to get 8 ATCs out of that, and I just kind of marked off in pencil here so that I'll know when I'm collaging my children down here to keep it in this area. All of this part will be trimmed off, and the pencil marks and all of that won't show because I'll be collaging over it. I also sorted out my groups of babies and children into sizes. Like these are like groups of 2 or 3, and these are the larger ones. These are black and white, kind of vintage. These are smaller ones. These are the next size up, next size up, next size up. So that's kind of how I'm going with that now. So I'm going to start collaging now, but I wanted to come back in and show you where I am on this so that you can understand what I'm doing with it. So I'll be back in the next segment. Okay, I started laying down before I'm collaging the larger ones because they are so large, though faces will probably fall into the background. So I have one large one for each of my 8 ATCs. I'm not sure that this is exactly where they're going to be placed, but I wanted to kind of let you see what my thinking is as I collage these down. And then I'll probably go to some of the next, this little guy is so cute, the next larger ones, and just keep collaging them down that way and add some smaller ones. I'm going to have more than enough. I'm thinking that I want my vintage ones to be on the top layer of each ATC. I think I have 8 of them. If I don't, I'll go find a couple more. So I want the vintage ones are in black and white, and then I want them on the top layer and all the colored ones to fade to the back. So that's my thinking. Now I'm going to go collage. I'll be back in the next segment. Okay, I'm back. And I don't know how much you can see of it, I've collaged all my little faces onto what I think is going to turn out to be 8 ATCs. The theme is Faces in a Crowd, and on each one of my ATCs I've used a black and white vintage, except for this one. I've got one little one there, here, 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 and here. So, how much you can see of it without the glare coming off on it. There we go. And this part will be trimmed off, and I'll trim them into ATCs. That's what I'm going to do next. But my original plan was to draw a baby face in here and put baby face. Well, I sketched out some baby faces and I didn't like how they were fitting on here. They were covering everything, which may be what I end up doing anyway, but I didn't like it. So I went to another plan. I have this bag of photos that I got. I think I got them at a flea market. And I don't know any of these people, but there are some interesting photos in here. So I went through and I picked out some children, and these are the originals. I could go make copies of them, but I do not think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to use them and use them up, and if I need more children, I'll see if I can find some more photos. So my next plan is I'm going to use these. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 of these will not have the photos on there unless I find some between now and the time I finish. I'm going to go ahead with the 6. I only need to swap 2 of them. I may just play with the other 2. But what I'm going to do next is trim out my ATCs. And I'm going to trim it from the back using my paper cutter. So I want to trim 3.5 this way, so 2 of them would be 7 inches. So I need to trim this on 7, and I'm hoping that this is going to work for me. So if I put this at keeping my head out of the frame here, hopefully. As carefully as I can. 7 comes right to there. And right to there. Okay, so make sure I have the right. Okay. So see, I trimmed off that. Now I have, I don't care about the rough edges because I'm going to distress the edges, or I'm going to add ink around to them. So I have 4 2.5 inches. So 2.5 and 2.5 is 5, 10. So I need to go 10 inches this way. So if I put this on 10 as carefully as I can. There we go. So now I want to trim 3.5 here, and 2.5, 2.5, and a 2.5. So I have one of these, I think this is a Making Memories. Yes, it's a Making Memories, or We Are Memory Keepers. It's got the M here. Self-sharpening cutters, and yes, it's Making Memories. And I like it really well. It cuts paper really well, and it sharpens up. I've had it for probably a little over a year. You don't want to cut chipboard in it. This is probably as thick as you want to go. This is collaged 140-pound watercolor paper. Okay, so I want to go 3.5 this way, and I tried to be careful of where I was putting the little faces on here, but I'm sure some of them will get trimmed off, but that's okay. I'm going to distress anyway. So what did I say? This way I want to go 3.5. So it's right there. And as carefully as I can. 3.5. Yes, I'm pretty happy with that one. Let's see how this one turned out. Pretty good. So now I need to go do some 2.5s. And I'm still going to cut them this way because I think it'll cut better if I cut it from the back. Because I still have, it's kind of damp. It's not, it's dry enough, but it's still kind of damp. So I'm trying to make it as straight and even as possible. So there's one. And of course that's the one with no vintage photo. Of course I could put one of those on there and still have a vintage, couldn't I? I might do that on there and use my, I'm thinking to myself, look what I did. I messed it up. I wanted 2.5, so I'm going to have to trim this. I was talking to you. I'm going to have to trim this down. I made it 3 instead of 2.5. Which side do I want to trim off? This side? This side. I think I'll trim off this side. So that means now I've only got, instead of 8, I've only got 7. But that's why I make plenty of them. I only have to swap 2. And I can keep the others for collage or something or other. Even this would look fun on another ATC. So there's 2, and here's my little black and white there. Now on this one I want to see, and I think I've only got, I don't have a full 5, do I? Because I messed it up. Just measure here. I messed it up, so that's too bad. I think I want to keep this. So now I've got 6. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now I'm at 3 instead of 2.5. See, by all rights, this should go over here someplace. I suppose I could make one, but we'll just save that for... No, I think I'm okay. I've got 7. So is this 2.5? 1, 2, and 1/2. Yes. And because I measure with my ruler. 3.5 by 2.5. So I'm good on these. Now we'll see if I can just do this better instead of cut it by, since it's 10 inches, I'll cut it in half first. So I'll cut it at the 5, which is what I should have done to that other one. And then to sharpen this, you just go like this, get it sharp. This one at the 2.5, right there. I'm happy with those. And then cut these. Make sure I have it at 2.5. Vintage there. By vintage I mean black and white. And then vintage here. And this one doesn't have one, but I may use one of those photos. So let's get my paper cutter out of the way. Now, what I want to do is, I've got 1, 2, I got my light in the way here, you're probably getting the glare off of my other light. 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'll take this one out and put it up there because it doesn't have all the others have a little black and white on them. Teeny little black and white there. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So these two I'll just keep for fun. I may do something with this just to play around with it, to experiment. These I'll put them in my box 19. Now I think I'm going to turn off the video because I've got to download some of the videos, the prior videos I have off of my card onto my computer. and clear up some space. And then I think I'm going to trim, because I want the black and white to be prominent on these, but I don't want them to be so prominent that they wipe out all the other little faces. Some faces will get wiped out, but some of them won't. So that's what I'm going to do next, and I'll be back when that is finished. Okay, I'm back. And I have trimmed my cards, my little photographs, and I've kind of figured out which ones I want to go on what ATC, and kind of worked out a placement for them. I want to do some experimenting. On these ATCs, you can tell that the background on all of them is kind of like an orangish sepia. That's just from the magazine, because they were pulled out of magazines, and I think it's a nice contrast to the black and white, the vintage on the black and white. But I was going to experiment on this one that I goofed on cutting, and what I want to do is, I have this kind of a sepia. This is an ink tints blocks, ink tints blocks, and I like using these a lot. And what I want to do is, I want to see if I can't draw that in the background a little bit more using my sepia. Let's see if I can reach in and get my water brush rather than that sponge. I have it in my little pouch here. Get it going. I got water in it. I got a little water in it. Well, maybe I'll just dip it in the, because I don't have any water in, I'll just dip it in my water tray here. And what I want to do is experiment with this sort of a sepia color right here, this one. See how well you can see that with my light. And I want to see what will happen if I try to bring them more in the background. I don't know how those, even though I used a matte gel on them, I don't know if I'm going to like that or not. It's already got an orange, not an orange, but a reddish tone to it. Light on the subject here. I'm not sure that it's making a big difference. Let's try some brown. See if I can pull it more in the back. Ooh, that really pulls it in the background, doesn't it? If I like that or not. I think with the magazine photos, it's just kind of seeping into the pages. I'm just experimenting on that. I don't think I'm going to do that. The other thing I wanted to experiment with, and I'm going to use my sponge to do this, is do the same thing, and I might have some different colors on my sponge because I was using it for other things, and I want to see how I can, if I can get some. This is a doily that I got at the Goodwill, and I'm just using it as I would a stencil. Now that does pretty good on it, doesn't it? I was thinking I'd do that on the background. Now if I let that dry, and if I come over it with a yellow, it will not disturb that design. Let's see if I can put this back and get a little bit more up in here. I kind of like that. This is just experimenting, but I think I'll do it on the others, just for the background, for the back. I'm just kind of drying this off real fast. And then I will come in with my water brush on my yellow, I think. And just kind of see it, because these intense blocks, once they're dry, they don't fade into the others. And I really like that for a nice background. So I'm going to do that on the background of these. And then the other thing I'm going to do, and I think I will use my Biggie Faber-Castell. I cut these pictures, but I need to edge just real quick because it got a little white showing on them, just to kind of take care of the cut marks. And I don't have to be precise on these. I'm just kind of taking care of some of the white lines that are showing in there. Okay, now I decided I was going to put this one on here. So I'll collage those down, but I think before that I'm going to go ahead and do the backs, and I think I'll do the backs first, and then I'll edge all the pictures offline, off the video, and then I'll glue them down. Then I have a couple more things I want to do. But I'm going to go ahead and do this while I have the video running. And I've learned that with this sponge, it's wide enough to go across two of them, so I can pick up a dark brown and a light brown, or a blue if I want. And I'm just going to, I think I'll just pounce it. The key is to get dark and I'm just kind of loosely holding this doily. And then I will come back over that with my yellow. Get more in there if I could. So I can go back over that spot a little bit more. So like that. It does not have to be precise, and in fact it doesn't have to match up again. Because it gets some design on the back of it. And then I'll come in with my yellow. Maybe I should dry that just a little. Like they do the yellow. I don't have my water brush loaded with water, so I'm just dipping it in my water jug I have over there. So I'm going to let those dry. Let's just experiment with that one. I suppose I'll just use the same side of the doily all the time, do you think? I spray water in my palette just so I have something to get my sponge in when I'll do this one with a little blue and a little brown. You can see what I'm doing there. Bring Now when this dries, and if I go over it with yellow, it should not make the green, because that blue should be dry. I can get some brown. And here again, I'm not trying to be too precise with it. I'd like to get color down. That's good enough. Gonna let that dry and go on to do the rest of them here. See if I can get a little blue. Oh, that's good enough. I just want a little spotted design on the back, I guess. Let's try the edge of one. Try the flower of one. 2 edges, like that maybe. Do this one in blue. Maybe a little purple. And you always want to use doilies that are old and maybe torn or not any good anymore. You don't want to use your good vintage doilies. I kind of like that. This is the background. This is fun to do it. Let's see. Let's try red one. Of course, my sponge is not going to be clean, so I'll get a purplish red. And here again, I don't have to be too precise on this. I'm just getting blocks of color on there. I kind of like that. So I can do this too at 2. And just kind of use my sponge rather than going in with the yellow. That'll color the background too. Let's try it on this one. It's kind of fun just to play with it. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe I had some gel media in there. It's resisting. Could be. Right there. Let's see, I think I'll come in with this bright green on this one. And of course, I'll write on the back, document on the back what these were. Kind of need some more water. This sponge soaks up a lot of water. I can just wet it this way. What, the orange, do you think? I want to get the full, I think there's 48 different colors of this ink tint. 48 or 24, I can't remember. Anyway, I'd like the whole set. kind of okay. I might go back in again on that. I got 2 more to do here. 1, 2. And put the dark down. Could put the light down and then the dark over it, but I think I'll, yeah, use this. Reuse this. What was I going for? The darkish brown. Yeah, you're kind of dyeing your doily while you do this, but it's an old doily, so, and it'll probably be one that I'll use again and again and again in my art journaling. Whenever I see one that looks kind of damaged, and of course they don't charge as much for the damaged ones, I'll pick it up just to play with for my art journaling. I think it'll have an interesting effect or texture. That's good enough. I'll go with the blue again. I kind of like the blue. Got more of a purplish color here. There we go. Kind of a mottled effect in there. More so than I guess this one picked up the design of the doily the best. Maybe this one. But it's not meant to be a mirror image. And this one, I don't know what's going on with that. I think I have some gel medium on it. So let's pick up some, maybe some blue. And put in there. It's kind of pretty, isn't it? Can you see it? I'm working kind of low down on my desk, but I don't want to move it right now. Just the back. And what shall we put on this one? I don't have my water tin filled. I think I'll put a red on there. This is watercolor paper, so I can do this with a lot of assurance that it's not going to hurt it too much. We can put a little bit of red in here. I think I'll go back in on this one. I didn't get too much of a... How about going in with it? I tipped my whole sponge in there. I guess I wasn't. How about going in with a black and a black brown? My sponge is ultra wet. Yeah, I'll get a different one here. You don't want a soft and wet sponge or it'll just run all over the place. Yeah, I like that a little better. Okay, just the background. So, put this away for now. So now what I want to do is, I want these to dry. I'm going to turn off the video. I want these to dry. I'm going to edge my photos, and I'm going to glue them down offline too, and then I'll come back and I'll finish up the ATC. Okay, I went ahead and finished these offline, mostly because there was a lot of detailed work to do, and I had to get my face right up to it in order to do that. On the video, my head would have been right in your line of vision. So I'm just going to describe to you how I finished them up. I collaged the photos down onto the ATCs, my vintage photos, and then I outlined them with a Faber-Castell Biggie Black, so I get the black line all around the vintage photo, and then I outlined the ATC in vintage black on both sides. And I also finished up the detail information about the swap. You can see it here. So, and I added a little red button and some eyelash. It just needed something to give it a little cutesy to it, or a little decoration, a little color. So I have 7 of them. If I turn them upside down here, so you can see the backs. I think the back are just about as pretty as the front. The theme of the swap was faces in a crowd, and I chose children. And then I collaged magazine photos of children, and that kind of gives me a reddish, brownish tone in the background, and then I collaged vintage photo over that. On each one of these, on the front, I wrote cute baby face. So, and you can see the vintage photo with all the faces in the crowd back below. So I have 7 of them. I have to choose 2 for swap. I'm not sure exactly which 2 I'm going to choose. I think some are better to send out than others. So I'll make that decision. So later, here they are. You can show them to you without them sliding off of the... I got them sitting on a art journal. Here. So they are finished. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope to do more process type videos like this in the future. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back another time with another video. Goodbye for now.